A very warm good afternoon to one and all present here. Thank you for joining us for the Commencement Lecture 2024. My name is Neelu Anand Jha, and I'm an assistant professor at Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability. On behalf of JSES family, we welcome our newly admitted students who have joined BA and BSc Honours Environment and Sustainable Development course. Heartiest congratulations. It is my pleasure to also extend a very warm welcome to our second and third year students to the new academic session. We look forward to this new academic year. The Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability is India's first environment and sustainability school for undergraduates. JSES fosters curriculum, research, and collaborations of the highest standards. The school provides an interdisciplinary environment and sustainable development education through innovative teaching, impact-driven research, and practice-based engagement. The aim is to allow students to widen their horizons and develop the skills required for solving the complex environment and sustainability challenges of our times. We are honored to have with us Professor Dr. C. Rajkumar, founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University. Professor C. Rajkumar, a Rhodes Scholar, who was appointed as the Vice Chancellor at the age of 34 in 2009 when the university was established. Professor Kumar is an accomplished legal scholar and works in the field of human rights and development, comparative constitutional law, terrorism and national security, corruption and governance, law and disaster management, legal education, and higher education. He has 7 books and over 150 publications to his credit and has widely published in peer-reviewed journals. It is my distinct pleasure to invite Professor Rajkumar to address this gathering.
A very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to extend my heartiest congratulations and greetings to the incoming class of 2024 of the undergraduate program in environmental studies and sustainability. In fact, this school is one of our newest, smallest, and indeed one of the most promising schools that we have established. I also want to extend my greetings to the dean of the school as well as Abhirup and other colleagues and faculty members of the Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability who have made outstanding contributions, especially in promoting research and scholarship in a very short span of time. For all the students who are here, there are 2 ways to look at it. Your school is small, but you are part of a larger community. The university has 13,000 plus students who come from over 100 plus countries. The faculty members are over 1,200 who come from over 50 countries, and there are some 2,800 plus administrative staff who essentially are part of the overall governance and administration of the university itself. You are, of course, this school, I must say that not only it's one of the most promising schools that we've established, but also the issues that this school is focusing on, both in terms of teaching and research, are going to be the most defining aspects of our future. You are essentially studying existential questions, the future of our planet, the future of us as people, and the future of the very world that we exist will depend upon the kind of issues that the school essentially teaches, but also the kind of research that the school emanates, but also hopefully the kind of young leaders that you will end up becoming when it comes to focusing on the issues relating to environment and sustainability. The other thing about this school and indeed the university is that we are a very interdisciplinary university. In fact, just to let you know that while we have 12 different schools, and I want to run the list with you, we have a law school, a business school, a school of international affairs, a school of government and public policy, a school of liberal arts and humanities, a school of journalism and communication, a school of art and architecture, a school of banking and finance, a school of environment and sustainability, where you are part of, a school of psychology and counseling, a school of languages and literature, and a school of public health and human development. But if I were to identify 1 or 2 themes that cuts across all the 12 schools of the university, and that there are scholars and professors who end up teaching and pursuing research on 2 major themes across all the schools, be it the law school, the business school, and the architecture school, and all other 11 schools. It happens to be on issues related to environment and sustainability. And that's exactly what your school's title is, and a lot of work happens. The other thing which I think is important for your school is that we are also making an important distinction and recognizing the fact that a lot of work in the field of environment has focused a lot on environmental sciences and also the kind of interesting and important work that our distinguished speaker, Professor Kutsia Tehsin, has spent a good part of her life. While that is important and needed, it's equally important to recognize the role of humanities and social sciences, including law, that will help us and enable us to address the big challenges of environment and sustainability. So in some ways, this school and the university not only is building on the strength of environmental sciences and a body of literature that has emerged through that, but also to recognize that ultimately it's about dealing with people, dealing with powers, dealing with institutions, and dealing with every stakeholder in the country, be it the government or the private sector. The moment you begin that interaction, where environment and sustainability are matters that simply cannot be left only with few stakeholders, but require a reimagination, but also a stronger approach towards law and regulation on the one hand, and reimagining the way we conduct ourselves as people. That requires sociological and behavioral sciences at some level. It also requires, reimagining the power structures on the basis of which institutions and governments exercise power, and also to reimagine the role of business. Today, it's quite remarkable that the early origins of the ideas of corporate social responsibility, which to a large extent was lip service was paid by companies, has now transcended to and moved into concepts such as ESG, environmental, social, and governance. There are very few corporations in the world today who do not at least recognize the role of ESG and are putting in place systems, practices, procedures, processes, and even changes in the way they conduct business, and even board level engagement on issues relating to environment and sustainability. It's also important to recognize that young graduates like you, when you will complete the program, your approach towards the future when it comes to the kind of job opportunities, the kind of areas that you want to be part of, is not only confined to environmental organizations. You could be part of a company, a corporation, a business enterprise, an accounting firm, a law firm, or whatever, because environment and sustainability are issues that are so cross-cutting, and it doesn't have any disciplinary limitations when it comes to why they ought to be taken seriously. We are also very fortunate at OP Jindal Global University because we have unabashedly developed ourselves into a multidisciplinary institution and a lot of interdisciplinary faculty. It is not easy to bracket our faculty, and so we have consistently removed those barriers. We have courses such as BA in Global Affairs and Diplomacy and Foreign Policy in our School of International Affairs, where there are courses on environment and sustainability. We have courses focusing on public policy and governance. So in a way, one of the things that you should experience here is that while you are enrolled in the environmental school, you are also part of these 11 other schools I mentioned, but then you are actually going to be really part of them because every day after, say, 4 p.m., we offer 500 electives. You heard it right. 500 electives that we offer across all the 12 schools of the university, with opportunities for students, regardless of whichever school or program they are part of, they can cross-register and cross-list those electives, something that is impossible in most universities in the world. I studied in University of Delhi. I graduated in 1997. I was in the law faculty, campus law center. Within 5 minutes distance is the Delhi School of Economics. People like Amartya Sen and Manmohan Singh taught there. And then within another 7 minutes of distance from the Delhi School of Economics is the Faculty of Management Sciences, which is one of the premier business schools of the country. The U is 100 years old. Never before in the last 100 years a professor has ever walked into the other school to teach a course. They could just give them lectures, but not a course. Never before in the history of Delhi University, and even now, a student can ever cross-register a course across another school. I used to spend a lot of time in the Delhi School of Economics because their canteen was better than the law faculty canteen, but that's it. In terms of intellectual engagement for students, there is zero opportunity, and even now. Even older universities, and later years I went to both Oxford and Harvard. I did my master's in both the universities, and quite unfortunately, because of geography and lack of coordination among the deans and lack of institutional mechanisms at the university level, even though Oxford and Harvard unabashedly call themselves, for students' purposes, as multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary university, the reality is a student enrolled in one of the schools is rarely having an opportunity to take courses in the other school, especially undergraduates and postgraduates. Of course, if you're a doctoral scholar or you are a researcher or you're a faculty member, it's a different situation altogether. But I am particularly interested in what kind of opportunities that we can provide for our students. I also want to mention that the Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability, led by our Dean, is also a very serious research institution. The faculty members of JSCS are at the vanguard of engaging in serious cutting-edge research, especially publishing in some of the most outstanding journals of the world. The Dean himself has published in both Science and Nature, and the idea of building a research culture is deeply embedded in the institutional vision and the evolution that it has had over the last several years. Lastly, I want to say that make the best use of the campus environment. I know that you are all pursuing a serious academic program. We have 20 plus student-run societies, in a fantastic infrastructure in terms of living experiences. Try to make friends from people from who are not necessarily from your own state or speak your own language. As I said, we have people from across the country and around the world, and get to know them. And these years you're going to spend here will be a truly transformative experience for your future. I also want to mention that as a university, we've established international collaborations with nearly 475 plus universities in 75 plus countries. We have extensive and substantive partnerships where over 1,000 students from Jindal go abroad every year, and we host another 1,000 students from abroad on our campus every year. These are all opportunities available for first-year students as well. Be familiar with the International Office and Global Initiatives Office, led by Professor Laknath, as well as Professor Akhil Bharadwaj. They will be sending emails and communications about various opportunities, and do consider those opportunities as you look at your future. Lastly, I want to close by saying that most recently we took an initiative, there was a second report, but we set up an Office of Sustainability on campus. We produced a report. Most sustainable development reports focus on the big issues of the world, what countries should do, what corporations should do, be it greenhouse emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, or climate change and things like that. But we decided to focus on ourselves. So this Sustainable Development Report that I've presented, and we've formally not launched in India. Actually, the first launch was in Tokyo, at the United Nations University in Tokyo, followed by launches at Oxford and London, and then most recently New York and Boston. But we plan to do a formal launch. But the SDR, which I will send you a soft copy of the report, essentially has looked at what we as a university have been doing in advancing and fulfilling the SDGs. I'm happy to report that because of all the work that we've done, the Times Higher Education Rankings has put JGU among the top 100 universities in relation to 2 SDGs. It's a very recent development. And so such is the extraordinary work that is happening, and that kind of resonates so closely with you. I would like you to be part of that office. So, Abhirup, it will be wonderful if your students can work with Professor Padmanabha Ramanujam, the Dean of Academic Governance, who heads the Office of Sustainability, and to be part of an effort to build a campus that also takes into account the future, because you are all one of the principles of sustainable development and intergenerational equity is that we have a responsibility to leave the planet not worse off than how we inherited. And if we have to do better than that, we really need the young people who are here, the students of the Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability can become transformative leaders, inspiring others to be able to follow suit. With those words, let me extend a warm welcome to our distinguished chief guest, Professor Kutsia Tehseen, who is from the Department of Zoology at one of India's leading universities, Aligarh Muslim University. There is so much to be said about Professor Tehseen, but all I can say is that she has made not only herself proud, but also the world of scholarship proud. She is member of all three major academies in India. She is elected to the fellow of the three science academies in India: the Indian Academy of Sciences, Bengaluru, the Indian National Science Academy, New Delhi, and the National Academy of Sciences, Allahabad. It's an extraordinary feat to be able to be recognized in all these academies, and because of our scholarship and our long years of work and substantive impact in the fields in which she has worked, this recognition has come. We are very fortunate that she has accepted our invitation to deliver the commencement lecture. I want to tell you that I am part of 16 commencement lectures that will be undertaken in 4 days. Yesterday, Sridhar and I did 5 commencement lectures, and we are on a roll. So I will have to seek excuse shortly because I won't be able to stay for the full event. But all I want to say is that it's such a delight to welcome all the students who have joined the Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability, and of course our faculty members who are eagerly looking forward to not only being your teachers, but also your mentors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Rajkumar, for your encouraging and inspiring words and your guidance to our students on their newly undertaken path, which is going to shape their careers and who they become in future. Today, we have the honor of hosting Professor Kutsia Tehseen, our esteemed speaker for the commencement lecture. I invite Professor Dr. Maharaj Krishna Pandit, Dean, Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability, to introduce our distinguished speaker for the day.
Good morning, Vice Chancellor Professor Rajkumar, Registrar Dr. Patnaik, our honored guest Professor Kutsia Tehseen. Welcome. It's an honor for us at the Jindal School of Environmental and Sustainability that we have university's top leadership here. So that speaks volumes of their commitment, as you must have seen. He gave an exposition. Not only does it talk about the brilliance of the man, I will come to that a bit later, but we are equally honored and privileged to have one of India's leading scientists, biologists to be specific, who will be delivering today's commencement lecture. But before I proceed, because Professor Rajkumar has made it easier for me, I will do the honors, whatever I am asked to, but before I proceed to formally introduce our honored guest, Professor Kutsia, I have a word of caution for our young scholars. You have decided to walk into the portals of a remarkable and a very important, evolving institution. And since the man talked about the institution, I will talk about the man. It's amazing that the person you see or who preceded me before here, 15 years of uninterrupted role as Vice Chancellor, tenure as Vice Chancellor, and he's going strong. Catapulting this institution into an orbit of excellence that is quantitatively measurable. It is one thing to say, because in India we are prone to saying that phenomenal, fantastic excellence, but his excellence can be measured. Every time, what's the reason behind it? Every time I get a message from his office or his number, I ask myself, now, which ranking have we broken into? Where have we? So that's the kind of bar he sets. And also he gave a brief glimpse of himself. Let me tell you, he has broken all the records that every student aspires to. And that is what makes me envious of him. I have this complaint. As a student, brilliant. As a researcher, brilliant. Not everybody gets to go to Oxford and Harvard, What else can you ask for? And all this has been achieved. All this remarkable success has been achieved within 50 years of life. And 50 years in academics. An academician, when one turns 50 years, you are beginning to formalize or formulate your academic prowess. He's already done. Now, the question I ask myself is not that, what is this man going to do next, or what will be his next achievement? That, of course, is sure. My problem is, what will he stop at? Where will he stop? So that is the word of caution. For us, for you, young scholars, the bar is highest of the high. So, no doubt, he has created this remarkable institution of which you have partaken to be the parts, where your future journey begins. Now, let me do what Neelu had asked me to do. Let me turn to the job that I was formally asked to do. It's an absolute pleasure, as I said already, to introduce our chief guest, Professor Qudsiya Tehseen. As you might have read from the flyer in her bio, that she is a senior professor at the Department of Zoology, Aligarh Muslim University. And I would, again, the Vice Chancellor has given you a brief exposition of what she does, but I will do a little bit different thing. What do you think do taxonomists do? What do taxonomists? She's a taxonomist. So why do we bring her here? Okay? So there's a logic behind it. So every time anybody asks you, because some of you may not be biologists, so what do taxonomists do? Now imagine your kitchen at home, okay? Imagine the condition of your mom or dad or whosoever is managing the kitchen, that if all the spoons, ladles, plates, forks, knives were put in a single bunch, the life would be extremely difficult, isn't it? Therefore, what your mom or your dad or anybody who manages the kitchen does is that there are small bins. So in each bin, the forks are separate, the knives are separate, the ladles are separate, and all the spoons, tablespoons, everything is separate. That's what taxonomists do. They classify things so that it becomes extremely easy for anybody. The second thing that they do is they name names. Imagine if none of us had any names, how would we communicate? How would we transfer knowledge? So they classify things, they name things. And a number of times what happens is that a lot of mess is created by naming things. Somebody names it wrong. So they bring on themselves to correct that name. So they are called revisions. So that is what Professor Tehseen has been doing all her life. She studied at Aligarh Muslim University, where she became the faculty member ultimately, the senior professor. And as you would have seen, her parent teachers have been the force behind whatever she has achieved. as I said, that in her taxonomic work, she has used scanning electron microscopy. She will give us a glimpse of that in her lecture to solve the riddles of naming nematodes. Nematodes are roundworms. Okay. Now, in some of her recent work, what she's trying to do is that she's trying to understand what impact global change or global climate change or warming has on this life form. So she is deeply connected with, of course, on the fundamental level, she studies life forms, biodiversity, and uses modern technology to solve the riddles of biodiversity. At the same time, she is also connecting that the practice of what happens in global climate change, because nematode is a group of organisms. Some of it are very harmful. They end up in our tummies and create problem, but some of them are very useful. Okay, so that's what's there. Now, rest of it you can use. I will tell you something very different about prostathacine. I was rather fortunate to be serving on a couple of committees where she was a member along with me. And I, again, was honored that 2 years, I think, I chaired that committee. And this committee selects the topmost scientists. So we have 2 positions a year. Is that true? Good, sir? 2 positions. So bestowing that honor. So she now, generally when we go into these committees, I'm letting cat out of the bag, but doesn't matter. You should know this. Generally, when we go to these committees, there is a lot of, presumption about people, about their work. So we are already decided what we have to do in a committee. A committee is just for having tea, biscuits, and things like that. But we were trying to do something very different. Now, the test case was that there is a gentleman, remarkable CV, but for a number of years, not able to make it. So when the discussion happened, I threw the ball to Professor Tehsin's court. I said that this gentleman has published these, and he can walk into any department of global university in that department. She said, well, I don't know. She took exactly 5 minutes and voted in favor, without knowing that. She only looked at the record. That day, I thought that this is called uprightness, and that uprightness is endemic to most women. I must confess it. As men, we have lots and lots of problems. Second time, we were trying to select young, offering a gold medal to youngsters who have done extraordinary work during their PhD. So again, 1 or 2 positions or 3 positions. Again, there was some kind of a discord in the committee. So I looked at Kudsia, I said that, what should we do? And then she said that, well, I think that we have awarded 4 medals to all the men. Why shouldn't we award it to one girl? And she doesn't know it, but I must tell her that girl today is sitting as an E.O. Wilson scholar at Harvard University's Department of Organisms and Evolutionary Biology. That was the contribution of that. So it's not only that they are, so that's the kind of remarkable person you are having delivering a commencement lecture. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Please welcome Dr. Kudsia Tehsin. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pandit. Without further ado, I now request Professor Kudsia to begin her lecture on the topic Beyond Names, Exploring the Mysterious World of Taxonomy.
A very good afternoon to all of you. And thank you very much for those kind words, Professor Raj Kumar and Professor Raj Pandit, because it's really, and I also include in my address Professor Patnaik. I'm sorry, Patnaik. So, so it's really a pleasure to be here because whenever I find students, I just get overwhelmed because I am a teacher. So, I just don't get bored with my talk because if I talk too much. But really, it's a pleasure to see you all. The university is fantastic, and your leader, the vice chancellor, he is very dynamic also. And I'm really impressed, and I have got a lot of hopes for this university that in future also there will be more disciplines opened, because still the full-fledged discipline of biosciences is not there. So I hope that you will consider that also, because when you have potential, then you should also exercise in those fields as well. So I begin my talk. And as Dr. Raj has said that it looks very simple type of thing, that we are, some people, they say that they don't do science. They are simply stamp collectors. But it is not so, because you have to apply a lot of your brain just to understand the characters, just to weigh them, how to categorize them. So if you see there is a cat and it is viewing in the mirror, finds itself, and then it says, Felis familiaris. Felis is the generic name, scientific name of a cat. Familiaris, that it looks familiar because it is the same. So it names it like that. So that is actually how you see that the science of taxonomy that progresses. It is really a path that is not taken by many. People are really scared of it. You may find somewhere, if you put taxonomy somewhere, you will get the articles, the degradation of taxonomy. Taxonomy, is taxonomy obsolete? Like that. Because always you are fascinated for many attractive subjects. That is, this looks very attractive, but this is the foundation of all the studies, I'm telling you. So if you just remove taxonomy from the scenario, no science can be done properly, at least in the biological sciences field. So it is very important. So this time, if you see Homo sapiens, this is the name of man, and he is actually behaving like a master of the universe. Though he arrived quite late. You see, the origin of Earth is 5 billion years ago, but you will find that man is the recent arrival. And in the beginning, man was very insipid, very weak. Like, it was a weak competitor among other beasts. Because if you see, defense organs are not there. So if you are left in a forest without any weapons, anything, it will be difficult to survive. Because no defense organs, power is also not so much like other beasts. Then running speed, not too much. Burrowing habit is not there. They cannot tolerate the environmental extremes, and also vulnerable. And of course, the young ones are too helpless. If you see the animals, when the young ones are born, you will find after a few hours, they start walking. But this is not the case in humans. So all these features, they made them so much vulnerable. But still, because of the intellect, because of the intelligence, because of the cranial capacity, they actually survived. And now you can see that they are ruling. So the beginning period, that is hunter-gatherer, pastoral man, technological man, and modern man. But this evolution, will that be leading to extinction now? It is also a question. Because if you see, we are now having the highest modern technology of AI, artificial intelligence. We are relying on it. So is it dangerous for us? And of course, you will see that in 2019, the risks were considered to be 2%. Then 2022, they said that it is 5% risk. And in 2024, you can see that Elon Musk, he said that there could be 20% chance AI can destroy the humanity. So that means the percentage is increasing gradually. And besides that, not only we require AI, but man himself is actually destroying the environment. So that is more than this AI, if you see. So this is the Anthropocene era. That means humans are the dominant one. They dominate everything, whatever they want to do. They are destroying the environment. You can see that their activities actually that has altered. Now you would have seen the excess rain is there, and you see everywhere water logging. The chaos is there. What is that? Why it is so? Is it man-made? Yes, it is man-made. Most of the surfaces are impervious. The rainwater cannot percolate down. You can find that we are having the alteration in the weather patterns, all these things. So that means the land as well as the oceans, they have been altered. And most of the habitats in which the animals were dwelling, they were degraded. So where will they go? They will find a refuge in the human habitation, and they will be, so when they are interacting with humans, that means they will also bring along with them all the pathogens, all the parasites, and they will pass them on to some of the domesticated animals and to human beings later. That is called as zoonosis. When you have a disease which is prevalent in animals, but then you get it. And that was the case, that was with most of the viruses, you see. Corona is one of them. You have witnessed that condition that was really a havoc, or you can say still you get those feelings that we were really, all of us were so scared because of the agony that we faced. At that time, it was again, and this last slide, where the the deer antelopes are there, you can see they are sitting on the roads. I mean, this type of view was never seen because human beings were logged and they were now roaming around in the environment, and this was actually as if nature has pressed reset button. And even NASA's report was there that the particulate matter that also declined during those 3 months of lockdown. So that was remarkable. That means if human beings, they are stopped to do all these type of nasty things, the things will somehow recover. They will actually, they will change. And this was, I'm seeing some of you sleeping. Is my talk not interesting? I used to always, some people are really, so just because that gives me some sort of a depressed feeling that some people are not liking it. Is it so? Okay. So now this corona outbreak, that has... Okay. So this has given us a lesson that we have to address the threats to the biodiversity. Biodiversity, basically, it is the food web. You might have studied in your junior classes. This food web is there. That means all the organisms, they are related with each other through the food chains. And these food chains, basically, because one is eaten and one eats other, and like that. So each string, if they are tightly knit, if you just pull one string, you will find the entire fabric will be disturbed. The same happens if any of the species that is gone, that becomes extinct, the other which is depending on it will be disturbed. Then the other one, and that cycle goes on. That's why biodiversity, that has to be intact, that has to be protected. And that's what is there, that the biodiversity which reflects all kinds and variety of organisms on the earth, all types. So huge, you can say, number, we cannot even estimate them. And they are all the web of, part of the web of life, and they play very vital roles. This is a long list of the services that they provide, but I'll not go to that. So how did this question, you can say, that is, how did taxonomy start? This was the first question that came to the mind, that how many species are on this planet? This is actually a curiosity. There are so many things, but what should be the number? And then that actually was worked out. Still, you can say that these figures, they are not accurate. The estimations are, some people are saying that they can be 1 trillion of species, because we don't know about them. There are many of them which are harboring the oceans. We don't know. That is, you can see that oceans are so deep, even whatever is there at the bottom of the ocean, you don't know. So many species, and you can find that we simply don't know this question, how many species are there? Though there is a paper in PLOS Biology that says that there was about, that means the current estimate was there 5.3 million, and they said that there are about 1.2 million species they have been known so far. But this also is very fragmentary. Biodiversity status, you see. You will find that the red color that shows critical and endangered, that means we are simply threatening them to die. Next one, threatened, and then the stable one. So green color you can see only towards the poles, but most of the human population, wherever it is there, you will find they are threatening this biodiversity, and that is a thing of concern. There was a picture in a paper that if lion, or if that is topmost predator, that vanishes, or that becomes extinct, then we'll come to this condition. Can anybody expect? How can this happen? They correlated that topmost predator actually that maintains the stability of the ecosystem. So if you remove that, suppose lion is removed, what will happen? It feeds on the deer population, it feeds on all the herbivores. Herbivore population will shoot up. Herbivores are eating the plants. So plants will be very scarce. Plants are there for rain. Rain will not be there because you will find that there will be drought, and we are producing electricity out of rain. That was actually a very weird type of correlation, but still you will find that this is how the impact is there if one species goes off. So we actually rely on this biodiversity, and if at all biodiversity is affected, then we will also suffer. We will also face the brunt. What are the major threats to this biodiversity? You will find that habitat loss. You might have seen that there are so many flyovers built. You will see that on the two sides there are fields, but in between there are flyovers. That means there is a discontinuity of habitat, that is called as habitat fragmentation, or even habitat loss. Altogether the habitat is gone. You will see that bulldozer going around, and just you can find that is again the same thing, that you are actually displacing them. You are pushing them to the wall. Where will they go? They find no place. And then introduce a species, because we are giving top priority to our economics, to our profits, and sometimes we also do things which are having very serious consequences. We introduce a species, like one of the species which was actually a fish species, that is Clarius garipinus. That is a fish, catfish, and that actually breeds and that produces large number of offsprings within a very short time. But this fish, it is an African native. When it was introduced to the waters, you will find it actually replaced all the native fishes, because it is a very, you can say, superior competitor. It replaced all the species. So that means we are reducing the biodiversity by doing such type of act. So these are actually introduced alien species, which may also, there is one picture you can see, that is alligator gar. That also is from North America, and that was found in waters of Kerala. So you will find that, see the massive size, and you will see that it is also predatory. So they are actually competing, killing the other native species. Likewise, pollution and climate change, that is also affecting our biodiversity, besides population growth and besides our careless approach of over exploitation of the resources. We are actually, the animals are better than us. We are greedy. We are overusing the things beyond our need. And that is actually not a proper thing here. You can see that these are the various types of activities which have actually made the number of species threatened. We also have this book which is giving us a warning, caution sign that look, what is the status of the biodiversity around us? You can see that this book informs us about the extinct species. That means they are already gone. But some of them are extinct in the wild. That means they still can be protected because they are there and you can just conserve them. Critically endangered, vulnerable, near threatened. But then after that you will have the least concern. That means they are of least concern. That means they are in plenty. They don't have a threat in near future. But then data deficient and not evaluated species, they also pose problem. So why should we be concerned about biodiversity? Because extinctions are going on. The species are getting wiped out. You can find that there are about 3 species per hour are becoming extinct in the world. And you can see that this is very alarming figure, 20,000 extinctions per year. Basically, there were 5 mass extinctions in the history which have gone, and we are actually reaching to that threshold that such extinctions can now occur again within a period of 300 years. So this is again another news, that is 10% of the birds will become extinct by 2100. So we are only talking about the organisms which are viewing, which are visible to us, and that is only the tip of the iceberg. But those organisms which are living below the ground, which are living in the oceans, we don't know. And you can see that is the mass of them. So is it a simple or easy task to keep a record of all of them? Do you think so? And why on earth we are going to keep a record? Is it necessary? Yes, it is necessary. We don't know about them and they are getting extinct. We don't know how they can be utilized because our biological resources, they need to be properly utilized and we don't know about them. So this is a challenging task. No matter if you are not getting, you can say, applaud for that, but still you are doing a service. This is a service to science. Okay? So you will find that this below ground diversity, that actually is the humble one. That is serving you. You don't know what is the decomposition process going on in the soil. You might have heard something about the soil mineralization. Okay? That is, again, you will see that carbon footprints are there. These are actually the terms which are very currently in use. So you see that these are actually the decomposers in the soil, which are converting all the dead and decaying bodies, and then again they will be making them into nutrients for the plants. So if they are not doing this menial task, then what will happen? The plants will not get food. So this is actually very important thing. Here you can see that if we ignore them, there was a paper that actually reflected that you will see that there is a soil or underground, below ground diversity and above ground diversity, and you see that at places both of them are the highest. So you can find that at the poles you will see that below ground diversity is more because there may be permafrost all the time, there is ice, and so you will find the above ground diversity is affected, but the below ground diversity, that is doing its service. No human eye has ever blinked at them. Most human minds have never spent a moment reflecting on them, yet the sobering fact is they don't need us, but we need them. This is actually a very, you can say, pertinent statement. Have you ever seen them? These are the ones which are living in the soil, doing all the decomposition work. And there you can find the fifth one is the nematode on which I am working. Because this also is not visible, though nematodes, I'll tell you afterwards that how important they are. So, new targets are there. That means we have to curb species loss and we have to protect them. But how can we conserve, how can we protect them when we are ignorant about their presence? We don't know about them. So this is taxonomy that actually goes hands in hand with biodiversity. When you talk of biodiversity, you have to talk about taxonomy. When you have to talk about taxonomy, you have to talk about biodiversity. Both are very close to each other. Without taxonomy, you cannot study biodiversity. How will you? So here, you can see taxonomy is basically the identification, description, and classification of organisms under certain frame rules. Not everybody can do that. There are a certain set of rules that is called as International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. That gives us certain rules which are there. And this is the gentleman who is now slightly in a different attire. He is there, but he introduced these categories. Species is the basic unit. The species, they are grouped together under the genus. So if your name is Homo sapiens, that means your genus is Homo sapiens is the species. There was another species of humans before that, Homo erectus, that is extinct now. There was also another species, Homo neanderthalensis. आप लोगों ने कुछ evolution पढ़ा है? Have you studied evolution at some place? Then you would have. So that is how genus, family, they are actually in the hierarchy. The topmost is the kingdom. So there are kingdom Animalia. All the animals, including us, are there. Plantae, all the plants. Likewise. But each individual belongs to a species and should be called by two names. That is binomial nomenclature. Each individual is assigned. So here we all are humans, so we are having two names, Homo sapiens. Principles of International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, you can see that is, but always you will find that these names are in italics. Always you have to write in italics, and they have to be Latin or Latinized. There must be some meaning. There must be some justification for that name. You have to just go for that. That is what is the meaning of that name. It can be based on any locality. It can be based on any nation. It can be based on any characteristic. Anything like that. And species is basically the lowest unit. Okay? And this species is basically the one which is identified. Rest of them are classified. This is identified because you are having a certain set of characters which are represented by an individual. And that denotes a species. The species can then group together. Similar type of species can be grouped together under a genus. And similar genera can be grouped under a family, like that. So here, just one thing that you will see that initially when taxonomy started, then the morphology was given the most important. You can say the most important thing that was found was appearance. How do they look like? Morphology or phenotype. That means you always. But then afterwards, it was found that there is a carton that you can see that the same genotype, that is the different genotypes are there, but you will find that same environment and they can have the different genotype because the genotypes are different. But here the genotypes are same, and if the environment is same, the phenotype can vary. That means environment also can bring about some changes in the species which may be deceptive. That is called as phenoplasticity. That means the phenotype is so malleable that it can be affected with the changes in the environment. Why it is so? Because the species adapts itself to the changing environment. So the phenotype that change. You might have studied the theory of Lamarck. So that was actually one of the thing, but you will find that phenotype gets changed, but the genotype remains the same. So that means when we totally rely on phenotype, then it will be a mistake sometime, because it may not reflect the same individual. It may reflect different individual, but it is the same. So that's why then, but before that, why we are having the taxonomy to be very important. Any work you do, you are working on in agriculture, you want to control the pests. You have identified the pest incorrectly. What will happen? You carry out all the study just to remove that pest. You are doing all sorts of, you are testing the drugs or anything like that, and you find that the model or the test species that is wrongly identified. Your entire result, they will be waste. Okay? So that means a lot of money, a lot of time will be wasted if such type of, you can say, things that is incorrect identification. That's why all of them, they are actually requiring taxonomy. That means we have to properly name, we have to identify them, and identification is a must. All the genome projects or any type of researches in medical sciences, they will be seriously compromised. So it is also just helpful in sustenance of the biodiversity, because you find that out of the entire existing biota, only 10% is known. 90% of the biota still is not known. We don't know about them. And here you will see that many of the ecological studies, when we are finding the bioindicators, they again need to be correctly identified. So our ignorance regarding all these things, that is enormous. We only are identifying the species, but is that sufficient for us to name them only? Is that sufficient for us not to know more about them? Is that sufficient for us to know only about their phenotype? So that's why then, because you will find that always there is a chance of improvement in what you do every day. You must improve yourself. So you see here that that's why the name and classification were okay, but then the identification keys, the images, the distribution data, where they can be found, what role they are playing in the food web, all these information, they should be available. And that's why the thinking that changed. You can see that all these are the beneficiaries who are just getting benefited out of this information: taxonomists, ecologists, conservation biologists, or political managers and general public as well. Coming to my nematodes. So you will find that they are actually the ones which are the most unnoticed ones. Do you have a nematode in you? You may have in the intestine. Ascaris, you have heard about? Intestinal worm. That is very, in children, that pinworm, Enterobius vermicularis, that is very common. So you will find that they are actually categorized as ubiquitous. God is called as omnipresent, but they are called ubiquitous, the same synonym you can say. They are found everywhere. Even they could be traced from the dust of the wing of aeroplane. It's not that they are growing there, but they reach there because of the wind, you can say. So that means they are so light. They are found in the hot water spring. They have been reported from the Antarctica ice, just deep. And just, I think there was a news about a nematode which is considered to be about 46,000 old. and that was found deeply buried in permafrost. आप लोगों ने पढ़ा होगा अगर आपने किया होगा. There was a news. So that could be extracted because it has got the characters which were very similar to ancestor that existed 46,000. So you will find that this is how they are very hardy creatures, And as I tell you that they are omnipresent, so they are found in the plants as plant parasites. Cause a lot of damage. You will find that in Europe, still they want to uproot the cyst nematode. They have run thousands of projects for that, but they could not remove that. This is actually a menace there. In France and Spain, the nematode that is actually parasitizing pine wood that becomes totally destroyed because of that nematode. So this is how you see that they can be nasty. They can be just parasitizing the plants or parasitizing the insects. आप लोगों ने ये WhatsApp आप लोग देखते होंगे, ये कैप्सिकम का आप लोगों ने देखा होगा, हो सकता है. Somebody reported that this is a snake. This is very dangerous snake. Somebody reported that. And this is actually a nematode. It is not a plant parasite. That is actually an insect parasite which somehow entered the capsicum and then they actually found. So this is how you can see that they are found in the plants. They are parasitizing the animals. All the groups are actually parasitizing the animals. You can see here, they are actually invading the animals. They are actually the decomposers also. This is the SEM photograph, and you can see not the simple ones, but they are having a lot of processes coming out. These are actually like the brooms they are using to sway the bacteria towards their mouth cavity. So they are actually doing all the menial role of the decomposers. They are feeding on the dead and decaying matter, the bacteria which are there, and then they are cleaning. They are the scavengers in a way. So bacterivores or fungivores, collectively they may be called as detritivores, even predators. So you can see so diverse. That means they can belong to all the trophic groups. आप लोगों ने अपने junior classes में पढ़ा होगा, herbivore, carnivore, or that is primary consumer, secondary consumer, or the tertiary consumer. So you can see all the levels they are filled. They are not producers. They can't be. They are not the autotrophs. They are heterotrophs. Okay. So here you can see all sorts of. This is the nematode that you must know about. This is the model nematode Caenorhabditis elegans, and this also reflects the importance of taxonomy and those who actually are saying that this is of no use. That is because this nematode has been the model in more than 1,000 labs of Europe and America. All the reputed labs, they are taking it as a model. This is actually used for studying the apoptosis, aging, development, even all the work related to cancer, that again, because it is showing apoptosis. What is apoptosis? That is programmed cell death. Yeah? That means each cell has got a genetic program that it will die after a certain time. It divides and then it dies after. It has a certain life. But when that program is altered, what happens? It keeps on dividing. Tumors are the result of this continuous proliferation. So if we somehow, we try to induce that type of, you can say, signal in the cells, then you will find that the cancer cells, they also will stop. So that means there are trials going on, and of course this is also used in. So that was first reported in 1900 by Moppus. He is the gentleman who discovered this nematode. He reported about it by giving the description. Okay? After 63 years, just try to understand, after 63 years, this nematode was noticed by Sidney Brenner. He thought that okay, let's work on, because it is actually a nematode which was found at the interface of rotten fruit and soil. Whenever fruits drop, so it is very much, you can say, fond of the rotten fruits, and so that was extracted from that habitat. And he started working, and he found that it is a remarkable nematode because it is transparent, you can see through the body, it is producing the young, or you can say its life cycle is only 3.5 days, and it is actually a prolific reproducer. So they found that on only 1 mm long, it can be viewed under the microscope. So after 63 years, he found it, he worked on it, and that fetched him the Nobel Prize in 2002. The same person, along with 2 other collaborators, Sulston and Horwitz. So that was actually, that is the same nematode which was in oblivion in 1900. It was not at all cared by anybody, and then you can see. So this is how you can know the importance of any biological resource at any time. It may happen, because then that was not the knowledge at that time. So how is it proceeded? That is, you can find that we also try to work out the oldest records. They can be preserved and they can be worked upon by using the microscope, by using the identification keys. This is how the taxonomic procedures are done, and this is the traditional or conventional taxonomy. This is how the characters, there are some characters which are there, like if you are there, your first thing that you notice for is the face, your facial features, they will be making a character. You will identify each other by the facial features. Likewise here also you will find those features are there, and they are viewed under the microscope. You can see here the markings, so much variable, and they are in different groups of nematodes. You can see that is the external feature, labial features, so much variation. And all these variation, do you find this thing easy? No, it is not easy, because observing and then analyzing the similarity or differences, it is not easy. And then these are the chemoreceptors which are there. You will see that even these two, that is the last one, they are actually the same, but you will find in one, this chemoreceptor is there, in the other one it is absent. So in that way, the presence or absence, or you can say even the shape or the sizes or the structures, they are all actually very important in categorizing. Morphometrics also, measurement also is important, because we measure the sizes. And again, this is how you view them. Then there are various types of checklists or bibliographies, which are actually the old records that you consult, and there are limitations. If you are not a proper worker, then you may find difficulty. There are keys which may also help you identifying. That is, there can be keys which may be showing presence or absence of character. You can go through and then you can identify. But you will find that there are something that, because each species, when you see, the definition of a species is that it is actually a group of individuals which are interbreeding, which are morphologically identical and interbreeding, and they are reproductively isolated from other such group. So I told you Homo erectus and Homo sapiens. These are 2 different species. Why? Because they were actually in 2 different chronological era. They did not interbreed. So interbreeding was actually a concept that is biological species concept, but some species, they actually are not having the males. They only reproduce through parthenogenesis. So where will that law apply? And that's why you will see that there are other methods that needed to be. And that's why you see that the conventional method, because of the limitations, as you can see, there are 2 types of butterflies that you can see there, and you will find that the one that is called as Mesonoides and the other one is Mesoeus. So you will find that apparently for a layperson they are all alike, but they are not. So such type of populations, they are actually called as cryptic species. That means morphologically you cannot identify them. There is an instance of prevalence of malaria in certain part of a country, and they found that the mosquitoes were prevalent in all the cities, but malaria was prevalent only in certain cities. So they could not understand what could be the reason. And the reason was because they were actually two different species which were sibling. They were having the same morphological features, but they were having different type of genotype, and that's why. So you will see that such type of restrictions, when they are there, then they are identified. Like here, for those who are sleeping or those who are just, there is something just to concentrate on. Like here you can see that there is an elephant, okay? And it has got a trunk. So if you have to describe it, somebody told that it is like a snake. So a layperson, the layperson will draw the figure like that. Okay, so this is how the taxonomist and a parataxonomist differ. That means a taxonomist will have to weigh the characters. Of course, this is actually wholly you copy whatever is being said, but you are not actually weighing what is the actual feature. So the tail is rope-like, so there is a rope hanging. That is the legs are pillar-like or tree-like, so you can find that the same thing. So this is how a parataxonomist will do from the keys which are available, because he may not know the proper significance, or you can say the value of that character. And so such type of identifications are now prevalent. That means you will find that identifications are not correctly done because they are mostly done by the parataxonomist using the keys which the person doesn't understand. So that's why the problem then was switched over to the classical taxonomy. That means, switched over to other taxonomy. That means because the classical taxonomy, that was having the problems. This was actually a blow that I would like to discuss. आप लोगों को impact factor पता है? इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर आपको सबको पता होगा, बीएससी में तो है, मतलब टीचर्स तो हम थोड़ा सा टीचर्स को कभी कभी सॉरी आप लोगों को इग्नोर करके हम स्टूडेंट से पूछने लगते हैं, बिकॉज सो इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर इज़ बेसिकली द क्राइटेरिया ऑफ असेसिंग द कॉम्पिटेंस ऑफ अ रिसर्चर. आजकल ये हो गया है, इंटरव्यूज़ में आपके कितने इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर के पेपर्स हैं आपके, ये पूछा जाता है ना. So this is actually where taxonomy stands in that way. Just I'm telling you, because you must know this also, that when taxonomy was introduced, so it was usually catered by the people who were looking after the museums because they had maintained a record. So at that point in 1960, Institute of Scientific Information, ISI, that actually wanted to sell information to the scientists, and at that point zoology, botany, mathematics, they had their own journals. But the other latest subjects, newly introduced subjects, they didn't have the journals. So they actually tried to pick those which are more, you can say, referred, or which were actually covered more. So they started doing the selection on the basis of that if the papers of a journal were less frequently cited within 2 years, they actually dropped that. Those which had more citation, they actually picked that. So that was actually the impact factor criteria they selected for the journals of biochemistry, molecular biology, and others. And then this was actually ISI's, you can say, criteria of selection. But then people took it and they started using it just to measure the competence of the scientists. And in that case, you will find at that time, the museums, they were catering the taxonomy, so they did not bother about that. But later you will see that taxonomy, the classical taxonomy, that actually was receiving very low impact because of that, but the journals like biochemistry, molecular biology, they were introduced and with high impact factor. So if you see here a 600-page monograph by Bullion et al., that actually has no impact factor. Isn't it weird? 600-page monograph that has no impact factor because it cannot be published in a journal which is having the popular articles. So this is how you should know the fate of this impact factor. It is always based, so there should not be the same yardstick used for all the subjects because some subjects are too specialized. Some subjects are not general. Some subjects are not broad spectrum subjects. So this is how, that's why we always emphasize that in all the meetings also. Because that is actually a, you can say, blow to the people who are working on. That's why students, they are discouraged. They think that the journals are not have good impact factor. Then ISI introduced another matrix. They said, okay, don't use that and use this one, cited half-life. That means how likely is your paper to be cited again and again, for how many years? And in that case, taxonomy had the maximum. The other information, they were short-lived. So people did not consider that, and they actually omitted that. Citation index, again, is there, which also is another criteria, which is also very similar to IF. Because if your work will be read by anybody, then that person will cite. How many people are reading? Those who are working on it. Very few people are reading, so very few citations. So what I should show you here, my example, that I also belong to that category where we are having the journals which are very good journals published from Germany and UK or US, but they are having less impact factor. Why? Because very few people are specializing and studying them. Okay? But that doesn't mean that the strength of the paper goes down. The strength of the paper is never down, and that's why that was taken as a criteria, because as Dr. Raj told, that you are here. So we always weigh the fellows on the basis of the reviews from foreign authors also. That means the foreign workers, foreign scientists, they also. So if you are recognized in your field, they will definitely tell that. So this is how you see that the impact factor and citation, that should not be used as a same yardstick. They cannot be the same yardstick for all the subjects. And that's why another one is introduced, that is quartile. Now, quartile is good because then your journal stands among those journals which are in the field. What is the rank of your journal? What is where does your, within 10% of the journals or 20% or like that? This is an information for you. Maybe you can get it next. So that's why then taxonomy, that was actually the phenotype was left, and then people, they thought that now the genotype, or you can say molecular characterization, the DNA should also be studied, because phenotype can often be deceptive. And then they started those taxonomies, they switched over, they started grinding the nematodes, that instead of examining them, they use the PCR and others, so that the real taxonomy, that now had to be molecular with the changing perspective. So the various types of DNA markers, mitochondrial DNA, ribosomal DNA, they were used, or even collective samples that is bulk sampling was done just to extract the DNA from the soil, metagenomics or ecogenomics, and even DNA barcoding, that was also introduced. So here they got plenty of characters now, because each nucleotide can be just a character. And so they started working and then studying the phylogeny on the basis of that. So it is a cool taxonomy, observing band. Scientists had to just grind the organism and put them in thermal cycler. But I'm telling you here that you should not be a technician. You should be a scientist. You should know the background of it. You have to know the organism that you are working on. Because just putting them in a thermal cycler using some solutions, that doesn't make you understand the things. That's why you have to understand. That I tell to all my students also, that you try to understand the things. You are sitting here, maybe this time will pass. But if you are really interested, something you gain that can be of use at some time. So that's why don't waste your time. It is very precious time. Wherever you are sitting here for this cause, maybe I'm not delivering a good lecture, but it's okay. The little thing, if you grasp anything, that may come later as a useful thing for you. In any interview, थोड़ा सा भी आपने सुन लिया होगा ना, कहीं और कुछ पूछा गया तो आपको हो सकता है याद आ जाए. So just don't waste your time. Okay? So this is how. The only drawback was there that those people who started working on molecular, they were not the taxonomists. तो क्या हुआ अब? GenBank is full of sequences which are based on wrongly identified organism. It has created a mess, I'm telling you. It has created a mess, and we are really so troubled because everybody is doing molecular. They are publishing in good journals, but those are actually fake sequences on wrongly identified, many of them. This is how it ended up. There are problems also. I mean, for the beginners or for the people who are having very small grants. What I wanted to convey here, that in US, now people are realizing that this conventional taxonomy that cannot be left, and then National Science Foundation, it has launched the partnership for enhancing expertise in taxonomy, and rest of the world actually is behind US, so they will be following after 10 to 30 years when all the taxonomies, they will be gone. So that is actually the thing that should be conveyed, and here you will see that taxonomies, they should also think what way to go. Not only the phenotype, not only the genotype, but there must be a holistic approach. That means combining all information together. And what are these information? That means they must have the developmental studies, they must have the ecological studies. All these things should be clubbed together just to give a holistic information about one species. And such information will always be rewarding. You will find that electron microscopy use, you will see that how the different characters, they originate, and how they are related evolutionarily with each other. You can see here, this is the scanning electron microscopy. You find that these are all different species, but if you see under the light microscope, they all appear the same because the resolution is low. And so here you will see, again, you find that these are actually the A, B, C, whatever is there, they are actually the same one, the same species, but you can see the variations in the phenotype. But if you are giving a detailed analysis, you find that where each species stands. After that, there were also suggestions that how can we improve the technique of identification, so we can have multifocus imaging, or we can have the video capture imaging where the nematode can be captured at different angles and in the live state. So multifocal digital vouchers, they are being also suggested. And then again, the development, that means studying the pattern of development and all these, because this also is, you might have studied that the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. So here also there is a distinct relationship between the similar type of organisms, and that also can be a trait for differentiation of the species. Behavioral analysis. Behavior, that means large-scale analysis on the feeding behavior, on the changes in the host tissue, or you can say the attraction behavior, the various types of, or even but in case of nematode, these audio signals, they are not there. This is meant for other animals, that is the audio signals, songs, etc. They are considered to be the point of, they are considered to be the character for identification or work of animals. Here, this is actually an interesting thing that I wanted to show you. You can see this nematode is only 1 mm long. And this stoma, the cavity is also, that is, the scale is there, that is about 20 micrometer wide. And you can see how beautifully there is armature arranged. So you will find that they belong to the same species, but you see that there are different types of morphs. I told you about phenoplasticity. That means there are different types of individuals produced when the conditions change. They feed on the bacteria, but when the prey is there, they have got adapted and they have got enlarged teeth which can entangle the prey and they can feed on them. So these are the features which may be diagnostic for a species. They must also be taken in detail. Ecology also, like the different types of associations, the geographical pattern, the position of the individual in the food web. And so here I would tell you that while studying the ecology of nematodes, we also could find that the nematodes are the indicator of the quality of environment. If you collect a sample which is full of herbivore, you can easily indicate that the environment must be having a proper vegetation in that area. Then again, depending upon the type of habitat which may be disturbed, you can again categorize the indicator organisms, which are strictly confined. In our study, we could find that in metal industry, there was one nematode, cluster rhabditis, that was found in all. Actually, this is actually too specialized, and that's why I could not take that. I was more general. But you will find that this is how the individual species can also be recognized and they can be indicating the quality of environment. Their association with insects, that also is a character where you will see that they are showing a distinction. Like here you will see that these are actually, you find the pictures, they are, the above 5 pictures are from one species and the below 4 pictures are from another one. But you can see how these individuals, they are distinct from each other because some of them are feeding on the bacteria, some of them are predators, and so within the same species, they were actually focused on different groups. Another idea was computer-aided identification that also was introduced, but you will find that again it has a lot to do with the characters which are fed. Because what you feed, that should be very crisp, that should be very clear. And that's why this actually particular aspect, that could not get much acceptance. There is also another term that is turbotaxonomy, where that they have actually focused on the sequences plus the morphological description by an expert and then high imaging digital images. They all were combined together to give the idea about one species. But you will find that in total, all the aspects together, like the morphology, the biology, the development, the evolution, and ecology, they all should be combined together to form. So, okay. So these were some of my collaborators, and thanks for your patience. That was really patient.
I request Professor D. Sridhar Pattayak, Registrar OP Jindal Global University, to felicitate our honorable speaker and give the concluding remarks.
I would like to thank Professor Tehseen for this wonderful lecture. As a lawyer, law student, and a law professor, I must confess that I did not understand many of the aspects that ma'am lectured, but nonetheless, there is one very important takeaway from this talk, which I would like to share with you all the newly admitted students whom we are welcoming officially to the university, and even the returning students belonging to the JSCS and the dean and the faculty members of the JSCS. And we are also glad that we have with us the dean of the School of Government and Public Policy with us, and the vice dean of the Office of Admissions and Outreach. So taxonomy is something which is very important, because when we just look at it in a very simplistic but nonetheless an important, significant way, it's a classification. So when you sort of, look at it that way and organize your readings and your materials and your thoughts and concepts and do some concept mapping and also work towards constructing knowledge, that itself is going to put you on a path to have quite an engaging experience here, because you are placed in a way in which when you read environmental studies and environmental sciences, you will also need to answer many public policy questions for the betterment of the society. So therefore, you will have, as the Vice Chancellor mentioned, an opportunity not only to do courses from your school, but even from the other schools as well. But at the same time, it's going to take a little while for you to understand the experiences over here, the nature of teaching, pedagogy, and so many other sort of assimilation experiences. So you need to give yourself some more time before you really embark upon your academic sojourn over here. But as they say, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So therefore, you should also see what are the societies to which you can contribute that can help you develop emotionally, socially, and intellectually, be it the co-curricular societies and even the extracurricular societies. And that's what is going to give you an opportunity to sort of, develop your personality as well. And you will have the fullest support and assurance from the school, from the faculty and all the staff members, but you will also have the fullest support from the university, from all the schools and university-wide departments. So on this particular note, on behalf of everyone present here and on behalf of the university, I welcome you all to the Jindal School of Environmental Sciences and Environment and Sustainability, and we also thank Professor Taisin for traveling all the way from Aligarh to engage with us this afternoon. And we are grateful to faculty members from different schools and institutes, that includes even from the law school and even from the Institute for Higher Education and Research, for joining us today. It's a fascinating afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Patnaik, for your support. And I thank everyone for being with us today. Thank you. Thanks a lot.